Hello, good morning, and welcome to the Dailies. Today, the 1st of July 2024. So we would love to use this platform to actually wish you a happy new month and welcome to the second half of the year. I am Sada Elisha Dashema. We have quite a number of stories on our paper following what happened with the two suicide bombers that burnt in Borno State, and then we are seeing that the death toll is increasing, and then about 42 or so have been injured. So quite a number of things, and here we're seeing that officials are saying that about 30 suicide bombers have been deployed. So that is to say that we need to intensify security. I am Sada Elisha Dasham, as I said, and I'll be doing the program with Rachel Tanzi. Good morning.
Good morning, Sada.
Happy New Month.
Thank you. I wish you the same.
Thank you so much. All right, we shall move straight into the paper, starting with the Daily Sun newspaper.
The big story on the paper: wedding suicide attacks. Borno death toll rises to 18, and we have 42 badly injured. 30 suicide bombers deployed. This is a statement from the official. We have purveyors will pay heavily. This is coming from President Tinubu. Northern governors, UN chief condemn attacks. Details can be found on page 4. Why Southeast governors must work together. Statement from Peter Obi. Details can be found on page 27. Rotational presidency will promote equity and justice. A statement from Ohuabunwa. Details can be found on page 28. NDLEA raids Abuja drug party, arrests 60. Intercepts 7.3 billion naira codeine consignment. Borrowing space narrows as Nigeria's debt to GDP swells to 51%. Swear-in elected member or be removed from office. Abia PDP chairmanship aspirant tells the speaker. Details can be found on page 27. Budget man orders tackle federal government for running 4 budgets concurrently. You can find details on page 25. Lagos residents lament access to potable water. This is on cholera. Katsina records 118 suspected cases. East-West Road, federal government threatens to sack foreign contractors. Details can be found on page 27. We have a picture story where we can see Governor Biodun Oyibanji of Ekiti State, former Director General Nigeria Stock Exchange Idi Okereke, and we have President, Chairman, Governing Council, Chartered Institute of Stockbrokers Olorupo Dada, and former Nigeria Bar Association President/Chairman of Occasion Chief Wole Olnani Pekun during the investiture ceremony of Olurupo Dada as the 13th president of CIS in Lagos. And that's all the news on Daily Sun newspaper.
On Blueprint newspaper, Presidency Loan Namasa Blue Economy Ministry on service delivery. And more on the paper, we have Odudu Audu Mourner's ex-CDS Admiral Oguni dies at 75. On business, Nigeria's cryptocurrency market worth over $400 million. Nigerian cryptocurrency market worth over $400 million. This is coming from SEC. Also on sport, federal government Lord Amusan clearance by the CAC. And also here we are seeing Kenya protest no blood on my hand, Ruto insists. And then we have the big story here, purveyors of Gwaza bomb attack will pay heavy price, Tinubu assures. Northern governors rally support Ndume harps on God's grace. Atiku condemns attack, urge drastic action. Syrup to CBN account for missing 100 billion naira dirty notes and other funds. More detail can be found in the paper. And then we are having NDLEA raid Sun City Estate during a party, arrests about 60. This happened at the FCT. NTIC student excel in international English contests. PCN seals 531 premises for various offenses in FCT. Nigeria requires 8 to 10% GDP growth for sustainability. This is coming from Adibajo. Detail found on page 34. We have a picture story on the front page. You can do well to get the paper and read more detail of any of the story that is of interest to you.
On Nigerian Tribune, debt to GDP ratio crosses 50% as Nigeria's debt servicing set to surpass revenue. Shaun has always appointed Obomoso chief imam since 1818. This is coming from the League of Imams. Details can be found on page 8. The big story is on Borno attack. Atiku Obi flee bomb attacks. U.S. offers support. Tinubu assures citizens. The writer says terrorists won't go unpunished. Federal government failure to hold frontline responsible for attacks. A statement from Atiku. Nigerians must be unrelenting in demanding security. A statement from Obi. We will collaborate with federal government to defeat terrorism. The U.S. government is assuring Nigerians. A statement from the U.S. Mayor. Goza attack last kick of a dying horse. Details can be found on page 2. NDLEA raids Abuja drug party, arrests 60. Edo APC PDP trade wars over government projects. Details can be found on page 22. On local government autonomy, federal government aired dragging states to court. Electricity tariff hike, most universities will become bankrupt. This is coming from Uniben Vice Chancellor. Details of his statement can be found on page 8. Still on the papers, how government policies, infrastructure deficit threatens Nigeria's $6.5 billion bear market. Why capital market may not be the way out. This is an analysis from expert. Details can be found on page 6, and that's all the news on Nigerian Tribune.
On the Vanguard newspaper, starting with a Monday interview on identity theft, Buhaha, where we're seeing securing Nigerians' identity with digital addressing system by Adekuye. You can find that interview on page 14. Konga ex-CEO's death, not suicide. This is coming from the family because according to it, he actually jumped down. So, a number of people are saying maybe he was pushed or something. So I believe that there will be a probe to find out what was really the cause of that. On Borno attack, Tinubu vows to deal with perpetrators of that. Detail found on page 9. Agony as federal government retirees grown under 230 billion naira pension arrears. With a writer following that story saying no payment made for over a year, legally binding upward review suspended for 15 years, stakeholders call for boycott of government securities, regular dialogue pressure from labor required. This is coming from Pen OP. More detail concerning that can be found on page 20. Why I want Southeast governors to work together, coming from OPE. Nigeria still using the 1966-67 map for survey, coming from Surveillance. Nigeria still using the 1966-1967 map for survey. You can find detail of why the surveyors are saying that. Exit of multinationals, opportunity for local industries, of course, coming from Manufacturers Association. But questions will be, do they have all that it takes for them to thrive with the way things are happening? You can find detail of that on page 22. On electricity, this goes monthly revenue rises to 42.29% to 142.92 billion naira. This is concerning Band A. And on sport, we have 2026 FIFA World Cup. Sport Minister set to wield the big stick. If you want to know what the if means, do well to gather paper remote detail of what is happening in the Nigerian Football Association, and that is all on Vanguard newspaper.
On Leadership newspaper, the big story, Borno bomb attacks, Nigeria won't slide into era of fair. Tinubu vows, says terrorists will pay heavy price. Let's not return to theater of terrorism, Atiku warns. Northern governors, U.S. government condemn attack. Death toll rises to 21 as security operatives arrest 2 female bombers. Details can be found on page 4. Konga ex-CEO dead, not suicide. A statement from family. Serap to CBN account for missing 100 billion naira dirty notes. Details can be found on page 6. A fact check. What did Tinubu say is the cause of insecurity in Nigeria? Trending: appeal court upholds Baba Ijesa's 5-year jail term. Details of both the fact-check and trends can be found on page 2. Stakeholders excited over executive order on local drug production. Details can be found on page 7. On minimum wage, lawyers back. NLC says Fed can't negotiate for workers. Details can be found on page 4. CBN Customs plan fixed import duty exchange rate. NDLEA intercepts coding worth 7.2 billion naira. Unibank cries out over 280 million naira monthly electricity bill. You can find details on page 22. Family debunks Olu Jacobs' death rumor. Details can be found on page 7. A picture story: Kenyan citizens protesting against proposed finance bill in Nairobi, Kenya recently. Photo credit routers. And that's all the news on Leadership newspaper.
You know, concerning the issue of the bumping in Borno State, Richard, I think it's high time we do something. According to the first paper, which was the Dailies one that we took, we're seeing officials are saying about 30 suicide bombers have been deployed. So I think this is where I hope that our security agency are up and about to check every hook and cranny to be sure who are these 30 bombers. How do we come about those numbers? There might be more than that. We will recall that the Minister of Information was talking about information. So we need to be careful of what is really happening, because one thing I'm sure is that these people are also having access to the media, so they know what is happening. So I am hoping that our government official, our security agency will go about checking, not just about we need the foot soldiers to be up and about checking what is really happening, because the issue of suicide bombing is another trend. We know what we went through at that time where we're having series of suicide bombing in various states in the country. So I'm hoping that our security agency will go about it. If they want to play dirty, our security agency needs to also play dirty at this point in time, Rachel, because I think sometimes the approach we've been taking has not brought out the expected result we have been wanting. That is my own opinion, and I believe other people out there are also sharing the same opinion. So I think our security agency need to think like the criminals as well. We need to change the way we think. We need to change our tactics. We need to change everything, because this issue here, we're saying the US is saying that this bomb is more like killing the dying horse. Already Borno, it's a place whereby, Richard, even if you get a good paying job there, just because of things that you hear and things, you are scared to even go there. Let's not even think about activities, businesses, education, because I know that in as much as their governor have been trying with all of these, making sure that the educational system does not get affected. But with the way things are happening, I just hope that we'll do what is needed. There should be no rest for the wicked, and I hope that our security agency should do all that is needed to bring these people. And these 2 female suicide bombers, they need to say who sent them. They need to be tortured thoroughly to get the right information. There's a way to get information out of these people, and I'm hoping that we can get to that point so that we can stop all of this, you know, nonsense going around, and then we just make them feel as if they have something that the government is holding back. We don't have anything that belongs to them. So we need to lock horns, like I always say, so that we can beat down the bulls of all of these things. I mean, enough is enough. We're tired of all these things that are happening, and I'm hoping that beyond the words coming from our president, we need to see the action to show that they mean business this time around.
Sally, when I saw the statement from the U.S. envoy saying it's the last kick of a dying horse, in my mind I just laughed, because that's not the truth. It's not the last kick of a dying horse. It's a start of something new, as far as I'm concerned. If 10 years ago we struggled with suicide bombing and then it went down, and then we are back with fresh attacks, you can't call this attack in particular the last kick of a dying horse. Yes, it's good to make Nigerians keep calm, but if you were on top of the matter in the first place, it wouldn't happen. That's it. That's just how it happens. If you are on top of a matter, if you are ahead, you're supposed to not allow it happen. So that it happens, it means that you're not on top of it, neither are you ahead of it. It's coming to you just as it's coming to Nigerians, to the victims of this attack. Okay. Giving us information of having 30 suicide bombers out there might give Nigerians a sense of you have and information. But as far as I'm concerned, this shows that you don't know anything, because you don't know where these suicide bombers, what their locations are. For example, where is the next place that they are going to target? Who will be their next victims? If you are banging on these female bombers, these are people that are on a suicide mission.
True.
They will not talk. They've
signed up for it.
Exactly. Those are not the people that you will get them to talk. So you basically will have no information or limited information from these people whatsoever. I mean, except we have a very good interrogation like team or all of that, and then we can squeeze out something from them. But if there are more out there, where are they heading to? What is their aim this time around, and who are they? So when I see this, I know it's just a beginning of something that Nigerians are about to have it tough and hard. That's the reality. I know the media, I know our service chiefs, I know the federal government, I know everybody will try to downplay the situation, you know, to give Nigerians some calm and some ease. And maybe I'm supposed to do that also, but we would also have to talk about the fact related to certain things and the reality whatsoever, that if they are out there, they're out there. And if our security agencies were on top or ahead of these people, it wouldn't even happen in the first place, because you're supposed to stop it and intercept it. I keep saying, what is the intelligence unit of every security agency doing? What are they doing? What are the covert operations unit, the special operations and all of that? What are they doing to make sure that these things don't even happen in the first place? And we sit down and say, well, you can't be ahead, because this is where I'm coming from. If we've had this 10 years ago, we have to make sure it doesn't repeat again at all. So you have to be 100 times ahead of them, not one step, not two steps, like way ahead of their every move, to make sure that there is no longer suicide bombing in this country. But if it happens, you can't call it the last kick of a dying horse. It means something is about to resurface again. We can say the same for kidnapping. If we've had it 10 years ago and it's still happening, and then it means nothing had been done about it. It's resurfacing. It's going to take its toll on people, and it's so unfortunate that people will be attacked in such a way just when you think you're safe, when people are letting their guard down. When you go to churches, we always have this check, you know, people, and I'm sure that wasn't done in the wedding, because you would think, we know we are safe now, we have security people doing their jobs, we don't have to worry about bombs anymore. And then a bomb goes off, and then you just realize that we have to be on our toes. Also, you can't even sleep, because it means the people who are supposed to not sleep are sleeping. So how dare I sleep when I could be the victim of the next bomb attack in the country, and we don't know where it's going to come from. So I just hope that as far as I'm concerned, it has happened. It means they're not ahead of it. They might now be on top of the issue, but we don't know what next will happen regarding this suicide
Honestly,
attack.
Rachel, because having the right information is very important. Just like you said, we actually let our guard down, and that is why we're back to what we thought we've done. And this is where we keep talking about, when one administration is torn, the next administration coming need to continue, especially when it comes to security. Because just like you said, as far as I'm concerned, at this point in time, it's a way of distracting the government from what they are having. So just when you say, okay, let us put the entire attention in Borno State, boom, you hear that the next place, they will now go to the southeast, or they will now go to the north central. You never can tell, just like so we don't know where they are headed at this point in time. So we hope we should be ahead of them when it comes to checking what is their next move. Let's take a look at the Guardian newspaper. Currency commoditization. Empty ATM dot metropolis as banks trade cash with POS operators. More detail found in the paper. Refineries to begin operation before January, Senate assures. You can find that on page 3. Well, we are hoping for that. The Port Harcourt is yet to start working. Kaduna, we had promised that it's going to be in December. So we hope that all of these refineries will start functioning by January 2025. Mayhem looms in North over hardship, Lukman wants. You can find that in the paper as well. How Buhari government failed to recover $69 billion looted funds, Obono Obla alleges. You can find that on page 9. Endless communal conflict, worsen food insecurity and hunger in Cross River. And then we are still having on Goza suicide attack. Tinubu mourns, vows justice as death toll rises to 23. NDLEA nabbed 60 as Abuja drug party, destroy 18,632 kilograms of cannabis in Edo forest. And we have a picture story here, Delta State Commissioner for Housing. I think we can see them trying to lay foundations on some of the housing they will start. You can do well to read more detail of that urban development in the paper, and that's all on Guardian newspaper.
On the Punch newspaper, the big story, import duty bank plane grounded as federal government clamps down on private jets. Aircraft stopped from flying over alleged 1.9 billion naira unpaid import duties. Details can be found on page 33. Federal government withdraws 5 oil blocks from 2024 bid round. Senate resumes probe as AGF submits 30 trillion naira loan documents. Outrage as UK-based driver remains on federal government payroll. This is on the JAPA issues and concerning what the president is saying about people who have left the country still on the government payroll. Details can be found on page 2. Lagos-Calabar Highway South-South section begins August as federal government suspends new road. UN condemned Borno bombing. Tinubu vows to crush Boko Haram. Details can be found on page 18, and we have pictures showing casualties. Police guard Rivers Hospital treating explosion suspect. Suspected headers hack Ogun rice farmer to death. Details can be found on page 4 and 5. TCN repairs plunge Ondo Ekiti to 2-month blackout. Details can be found on page 34, and that's all the news on the Punch newspaper.
On the Daily Times newspaper, Coastal Highway, federal government warned against erecting new structure for compensation. Detail found in the paper. On Borno bomb attack, purveyors of wanton violence will pay heavy price, coming from Tinubu. Says the federal government won't allow Nigerians to slither into era of fear, tears, sorrow, and blood. NSGF condemned Goza suicide attack. Tinubu responsible for resurgence of terrorism in the northeast, says Atiku. And you wonder why he's saying that. You can do well to find detail on page 4. There will be peace across Nigeria in foreseeable future. There will be peace across Nigeria in foreseeable future. This is coming from the COAS. Seek Nigerians' continued support for the army to enable it address insecurity. We look forward to that time. And we have Nigerian Air Force aircraft intercept fleeing oil thieves in speedboat destroyed refining site. And on local government autonomy, federal government air in dragging states to court. CDS mourns Amiran Owini, says he was patriotic all through. NIMED launches e-learning platform for greater collaboration and global opportunities. We still have the picture story showing us one of the victims with during the suicide attack while he's being wheeled into the hospital. And that's all on Daily Times newspaper.
On Daily News Hub, missing 100 billion naira dirty note, come clean now, syrup charges CBN governor. The big story, Borno attack, 24 female suicide bombers still prowling in Goza, authorities cry out. Confirmed 4 exploded Saturday, 2 arrested Sunday. Military imposes curfew in Goza LG headquarters. Terrorists behind Borno suicide attacks will pay heavily, Tinubu vows. Bayelsa's court jails father 14 years for raping impregnating daughter. Ondo Ekiti to experience 2 months power outage, state government kick. Borno don't allow Northeast slide back into terrorism. Theater Atiku warns the federal government. On Edo 2024, more resignations hit PDP as Emope defects to APC. Senior lawyer discontinues case against NBA Mikel. Guild of Actors denies rumored death of Olu Jacobs. Details can be found inside the paper. NDLEA intercepts 7.35 billion naira codeine consignments in Port Harcourt. As two execute 150 cocaine wraps in Lagos, operatives arrest 60 at Abuja drug party. Nick Umudia's death, not suicide, says family. You can find details inside the paper, and that's all the news on Daily News Hub.
On the Voice of Liberty, Nigerians' debt to GDP ratio crosses 50%, first time ever. Nigerians' debt to GDP ratio crosses 50%, first time ever. Coming from Kano State, Governor Yusuf to go after Ganduji over missing 5.4 billion naira pension funds. And on insecurity, panic as bandit kill one, kidnap 4 in Abuja community. How AGF Malami allegedly covered up $370 million Abacha rebutted loot. This is a report. A report has revealed how the immediate past Attorney General of the Federation and the Minister of Justice Abubakar Malami was unable to provide clear details regarding the $370 million Abacha loot from the UK in December 2018. I wanted peace of mind, says policeman who rejected 150 million naira bribe. And then coming from Kaduna State, NMA honors Governor Sani with Award of Excellence, appoints him as Grand Patron. Sirap urges CBN Governor to account for the missing 100 billion naira dirty notes and others. Namasa Blue Economy Ministry clinched presidential recognition for quality service delivery. More detail found in the paper, and that's all on the Voice of Liberty. But then, before we continue further with the paper review, let's take a break just to let you chew the stories, and when we come back, we will continue with the paper review. Please stay tuned with us.
Make your everyday informative, make your everyday count. Know your world, daily affairs, national and international, with authentic news events as they unfold on Global News and Zoom on Nigeria, Monday to Friday at 1 p.m.
Welcome back. If you're just tuning in, it's the Dailies, and we have been looking at numbers of stories on the paper. We saw what happened in Brno during a wedding where about 18 people were being killed and then about 42 are being injured, as well as we're seeing that Sirap is suing CBN to give account of the 100 billion dirty notes and others. And then we have other stories on the paper which we feel are very important, so you can do well to air your view on any of the story that is of interest to you. I still have Rachel with me in the studio. Thank you, Rachel.
You're welcome, Celine.
All right, let's continue with the paper review.
On First News newspaper, the big story: regional government will fail without tackling corruption, Archbishop Gaigama is saying. Immediate family denies suicide claims in ex-Conga CEO's death. Suicide attacks at wedding burial in Borno claims 30 lives. This is coming from the Emir of Goza. Lagos State cholera fight yields result, no death in last 72 hours. UK cab driver confesses, I still get paid as a civil servant in Nigeria. How terrorists stormed Abuja communities, killed 1, kidnapped 4. Atiku to Tinubu's government prevent Northeast from sliding back into terrorism act now. NDLEA boss drug party in Abuja arrests 60 suspects. Buhari's government shielded ex-governors $200 million offshore assets from persecution, Obono Black reveals. Serap demands CBN accounts for missing 100 billion naira dirty notes. And that's all the news on First News newspaper.
On New Telegraph newspaper, credit to government private sector rises by 10% to 102.69 trillion naira. This is coming from the CBN. Price verification portal suspension will enhance economic efficiency, and we're seeing why National Assembly must do more to surge people suffering by lawyers. You can find that in the paper. Highest French poll turnout in 40 years as far-right Sikh historic win. More detail found in the paper. And on compensation, we have communities erecting new structures on Coastal Highway. This is coming from the federal government, which they have been saying that they will compensate those whose houses by the roadside because they need to demolish it. And then here as well, the big story, cholera spread to Kirikiri Correctional Center. Affiliate 25 inmates. Castina records 118 suspected cases. And then we have Lagos State government link outbreak to unregulated beverages, contaminated water, as experts blame it on poor funding and maintenance culture. More detail of this can be found on page 3, 26, and 28. 71,000 Nigerians secure Canadian citizenship. And then we have Serap wants CBN to account for the missing 100 billion naira dirty notes and others. CP orders clamp down on vehicles without number plates in Abuja. Federal government approves 2 trillion naira housing scheme for Nigerians. You can find that on page 3. And on insecurity, federal government team posture and bundling terrorists in the northeast rather. Federal government team posture and bundling terrorists in the northeast coming from Atiku. From the NGF to Regional and Zonal Governors Forum on ending rise of political power blocks. Detail found on page 9 to 11. We have a study here that says using smartphone to calm kids' tantrum not effective. Using smartphones to calm kids' tantrums not effective. So for parents who are fond of giving their cell phone, you should take note of that. More detail of that study can be found on page 27, and that's on a New Telegraph newspaper.
On Nigerian News Direct, NAFDAC stakeholders commend federal government over new executive order on local healthcare. Solo1 bags Africa Oil Company of the Year award. Bandits abduct 4, kill 1 in Abuja community. On cholera outbreak, Lagos records 0 dead in 72 hours, 25 cases in Kirikiri. Details can be found on page 22. Oyetola and Umasa clinch Pebek Award for performance and service delivery. The big story, unemployment crisis fuels crime, mental illness as Nigerians anticipate federal government's annual 2.5 million jobs target. We need jobs, not empty promises, frustrated graduates cry out. Fake recruitment agencies exploit desperate job seekers in Nigeria, which is very true. You can find details on page 4. On Kenya protest, I have no blood on my hands. President Ruto is saying. Details can be found on page 4, and that's all the news on Nigerian News Direct.
All right, let's take a look at the next paper, which is the Metrics newspaper. Federal government approved 2 trillion naira for housing scheme in Nigeria. And as well, we're seeing on Euro 2024, England survives Soviet scar as Spain stunned Georgia. Detail found on page 16. Missing 100 million naira dirty notes, Syrup issued 7-day ultimatum to CBN. Said this grave violation also reflects a failure of CBN's accountability. CPPE hails federal government on import duty, VAT removal on pharmaceutical products. Sheikh Hussaini cautioned Tinubu against repeating Buhari's nepotism in appointments. More detail found on page 3. Borno horrific bomb attack, outrage condemnation resound. Tinubu talks tough, describe attack as desperate act of terror. Atiku bemoans resurgence of ugly incidents of terrorism. No to dark forces contending with peaceful existence of our nation. This is coming from Peter Obi. CAC faces over 15,000 applications daily for its fintech regularization program. Stop building new structures on coastal highway in hope for compensation, coming from Hope Umahi. Aminu Media policy to increase telecom GDP contribution to 25% in place. More detail found inside the paper. And here we are having Olu Jacob is alive family, and then Actors Guide debug the report of ace actor's death, which we saw on so many social media. So they are coming out to debug that rumor. Here we're seeing is a condolence visit. Lagos State Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu paid a courtesy visit to the home of the former Senate President Bukola Saraki to personally offer his condolence on the passing of his mother, Chief Mrs. Florence Moranike Saraki, recently. And that's all the Metrics newspaper.
On the Nation newspaper, insiders bid for higher stakes in banks' recapitalization. Major shareholders in preemptive moves. Details can be found on page 5. NDLEA operatives arrest 60 celebrators at drug party. I've been getting salary 2 years after leaving federal civil service. Details of these stories can be found on page 25 and 27. PAMSEC on the probe for sexual harassment on indefinite leave. Details can be found on page 5. U.S. Mayor Borno multiple suicide bombing cowardly. Tinubu UN Indume condemn action. Tinubu UN Indume condemn action. Death toll in 4 attacks rises to 18. You can start with the details on the front page. The big story on the paper: 180 trillion naira federal government consumer credit scheme set for takeoff. 500,000 out of 2 million applicants in first batch of beneficiaries. You can start with the details on the front page and continue on page 4. Work to begin on Lagos Calabar Coastal Highway section 3 and 4. Details can be found on page 5, and that's all the news on the Nation newspaper.
Right, on National Economy newspaper, federal government disburses 1.5 billion naira to producers for movie projects. You can find that on page 5. And on NIN, Nigeria gets World Bank $45.5 million fund for ID4D project. Also, democratic debt accumulation. Nigeria's public debt ballooned by 118 trillion naira in 25 years. Military handed over 3.37 trillion naira debt stock in 1999, now 121.67 trillion. Improve on quality of asset created with debt, expert tells the government. And then we're seeing boosting sugarcane sector for export opportunities. Detail found on page 22. And we have the table here showing us the currency, buying, selling, inflation rate, and also the prices of commodity as of the end of market, which was the 28th of June 2024. And that's all on National Economy newspaper.
On Punch Sport Extra, Al Ittihad offer Lukman bumper 11 million euros salary. Wakemes Parks on Nurture Union at Trabzonspor. Oshoba KJY extend wins in UK, and we have England, Slovakia 2-1. Bellingham, Kane power 3 Lions into last 8. Hungry players want fed up. This is coming from the El Kanami coach. CTI £91 million deal for Kimmich and Olmo. Chelsea agreed £30 million Dewsbury Hall deal. Madrid Bayern to battle for Wirtz. Details can be found on page 2. We have La Roja set up Germany quarterfinals clash. We have Spain winning 4-1 against Georgia. Ronaldo will prove doubters wrong. You can find details inside the paper. The big story, leave Osimhen alone. Sports Minister Eno cautions NFF on Napoli striker Finidi saga. And Inside United offer Huchland plus cash for Syria as striker. Arsenal handed Colafori boost. Details can be found on page 5. Adebayo agrees $166 million Miami extension. Murray battling fitness ahead Wimbledon. Details can be found on page 2, and that's all the news on Point Sport Extra.
On Nature News, we have pro-palm oil levy revenue in CBNC's Obasanjo's tenure. Coming from the ex-speaker, Dogara says Nigeria can make 16.2 trillion naira in 5 years, coming from palm oil. More detail found on page 3. And on food crisis, medical doctors warn on danger of rotting tomatoes consumption. Well, with the prices of tomatoes, what do you expect Nigerians to do? But here is a caution coming from medical doctors on the reason why we shouldn't consume rotten tomatoes, because they have some fungi that even after boiling, they cannot be, dead. So we need to be careful of consuming that. Rainstorm destroy over 50 houses in Yobe State. More detail found on page 3. Gombe government distributes inputs to 125,000 farmers warn against diversion. UNICEF support Libya to combat waterborne disease. You can find that on page 5. And we also need that support with the issue of cholera coming in. Here we have a fact check that say, are wind turbines the greatest cause of avian death? This is a question you can find on page 19. Rotary Sea Cycle NGOs host inter-school debate on environment. ECOWAS helps on integrated water resource management for regional growth. And that is all on Nature newspaper.
On Sporting Sun newspaper, the big story, Lukman tempted with 16 billion naira Saudi offer. Details can be found on page 6. Euro 2024 pressure mounts as Ronaldo's Portugal raised for underdog Slovenia. Details can be found on page 3. Man United offers players plus cash for Osimhen. Iheanacho, 8 others quit Leicester. Ndidi heads towards free agency today. Details can be found on page 6. Oshawa last goal seals win for Bay FC. You can find details on page 6. Man United set to announce Ten Hag future. Chelsea turns down chance to sign Sancho. Details can be found on page 5. Man City battling to hold on to Julian Alvarez. Details can be found on page 2. PSG offers Yamal record-breaking contract. Pogba gets special role at Euro 2024. Trabzonspor tables 600,000 euros a season salary for Nacho. Details can be found on page 6. Real Madrid Bayern set to battle for 110 million pounds rated rates. Details can be found inside the paper. Murray set for Wimbledon farewell. Details at the back page. Anthony Joshua suffers cut during sparring session with kids. Details at the back page, and that's all the news on Sporting Sun newspaper.
Well, that's how far we can go on the program. Thank you so much to all our viewers, supporters, as well as the crew for making this program a success. We look forward again to doing this tomorrow. Please do have a great day ahead.